Let's start with the latest updates from the Israel-Hamas conflict, where Ahmed Abbasi, the head of the Gift of the Givers office in Gaza, is said to have been killed following the ongoing bombings in Gaza. According to Gift of the Givers, Abbasi and his brother were assassinated as they were making their way back from a morning prayer. The organization has called Abbasi a father of three, a kind, gentle, warm human being who has been helping the people of Gaza since 2013. Meanwhile, Gift of the Givers founder Imtiaz Suleiman says the organization fully supports South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to ask the International Criminal Court to probe war crime charges against Israel. Earlier on, we're joined from Ramallah, West Bank by Hanin Bagoti, the project manager, Gift of the Givers Palestine office.
Has made us more determined to continue our work and to follow his lead. Yes, losing Ahmed broke our hearts since he was a one-of-a-kind human. Ahmed had the purest soul and the kindest heart. He taught us a lot, and Ahmed dedicated his whole life for helping others and for delivering the message that he followed and that he died while carrying. So we as Palestinians, we don't have that word given up in our dictionary. So the more the Israelis hurt us, the more the powerful we get and the more determined to continue living and to continue working we become. So now we are more motivated to continue the path that Ahmed was taking, and we will continue working, inshallah. Of course, losing one of the team members affects the work, but we as a team and with the support of the mother organization in South Africa will overcome any obstacle. The humanitarian work does not stop on one person, and no matter how devastated we are by the loss of Ahmed, we will never stop. Gaza now needs us and needs all the humanitarian organizations work the most, and for that, we will take any challenge and we will do our best to overcome these challenges and to implement our interventions. The situation in Gaza now is tragic from all sides. From the humanitarian side, it is catastrophic. The Israeli airstrikes and the bombs are targeting everything. The destruction is massive. All the infrastructure in Gaza has been damaged and destroyed. Most of the hospitals has stopped working, so the health sector has totally collapsed. The number of the displaced people is too high to cope with, and the rubble is everywhere. There are still bodies under the rubble. So the humanitarian situation is catastrophic. And not to forget that all the supplies in Gaza are out, whether food supplies, water, medical supplies. We are on the verge of a starvation in Gaza.
Now, thousands of people marched to demand the return of Israeli hostages in Gaza who were abducted by Hamas during its bloody attack on southern Israel on the 7th of October. The protest march set out on the 14th of November from Tel Aviv en route to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem, where a mass protest is planned for 18th of November. The health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza said 24 patients have died in the past 2 days at Al-Shifa Hospital, owing to power cuts as Israeli forces search the facility for Hamas hideout. And now Ejike Okpa, the global affairs analyst, joins me live to discuss this. Thank you so much, Mr. Ejike, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, what would we say are the root causes of the Israel-Hamas conflict, and how have they evolved over time?
I wish I know what the root causes are. I mean, this has been going on from decades since Israel was founded in 1948. There've been wars, there've been all kinds of conflict, and so should we say that's the root cause of it? Yes, maybe it was even before that. The Palestinians said this is their homeland. They've been there. If you look at the map of the world before 1947, Israel wasn't even there. But, we are here now. It's just a case of, all the strange bedfellows. Can you guys get along? And no, they can't. Israel has a military might, that the neighboring countries don't have. Israel gets support of, U.S. government. Israel has become the litmus test, for American politicians and the Western Europeans. If you hate Israel, you stand a chance of being ostracized. called names, anti-Semitic, anti-this, anti-that. But the Palestinians also have the right to live. Just like the Israelis have the right to live. So how do we, in 21st century, with all the resources available to us, we can't prevail on these two warring factions to come to peace, to terms, and find a way to live together. So it's very sad. Civilians are getting killed. Israel has a formalized military. Hamas is a freedom fighter that is labeled a terrorist group, but they're justified in their own ways. Just like in physics, action and reaction are likely to be equal and opposite. So who causes the action, and what do you think the reaction is going to be? That's what has been going on in that particular part of the world, and nobody seems to. The American government, depending on who the president of the time, oftentimes appear weak, to be able to call Israel to order and the Palestinians and say, hey, stop this stuff, because especially now that Joe Biden is standing for re-election, he's not going to be very strong in saying anything that will offend the Jews and offend Israel. And so he's going to talk from both sides of his mouth, and then what's going to happen? People just keep dying. Humanitarian, we don't need humanitarian things if people are able to live freely and they're able to produce for themselves and take care of their family. The humanitarian does not stop people getting killed unnecessarily, but either because Hamas bombed Israel October 7th and then Israel in reaction. But does anybody think what caused Hamas to react that led to the action of October 7th and then Israel is reacting? So there's so many things that is confusing in this situation.
All right. Now, how would you also assess the role of international actors in mediating and resolving the Israel-Hamas conflict?
When I was at Harvard, I took a course called How to Deal with Difficult People, which is a negotiating class. And I asked the professor, I said, okay, so if what he was saying in the class has any relevance, how come Israel and the Israelis and the Palestinians haven't, come to terms if we were to take all this stuff? So it tells you about the human nature. People are resilient and people are very difficult to deal with. There are sentiments, these things may not be caused by them now, but they remember, what happened in the past. They remember how they've been how they have been subjected to situations that make them look like they're animals, being mistreated. And so, the Western world, again, the United Nations are supposed to be this umbrella organization that goes in for peace and with peacekeeping force. Israel wouldn't even let them to step foot in that place. There are calls now for war crime against both sides. Let's see that happen, and let's see Netanyahu get dragged before the world court, and let's see the leader or the leaders of Hamas get. It's not going to happen. It's just a bunch of noise being made, and the things that happen keep happening. But if America and the Western nations that support Israel were to say, look, we're going to pull back the money, we're going to pull back the arms we give them, I think there may be some movement in the direction of peace. And then, of course, the Hamas, they get their weapons. So somebody's selling them those weapons. However they're getting them. So on both sides are people that want the conflict to keep going, because some people are making money out of it. War is one of the biggest causes of people getting rich at the expense of lives.
Okay. Now, how has also the Israel-Hamas conflict impacted the lives of the civilians on both sides, and what are the humanitarian implications?
Well, the hospitals, especially on the Hamas side, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Hospitals are supposed to be exempt. They're supposed to be facilities that shouldn't be attacked in a war. But, obviously, Israel is thinking that Hamas is hiding people in those hospitals, and they're going in and doing what they think they need to do in order to either rescue those that are, being held hostage, or, shaking up the whole Hamas infrastructure in order to let them, back down. But that hasn't happened. Humanitarian thing, of course, while this is going on, there's going to be attempts and, efforts to send help, aid, and medical equipment, the necessities. But while you're doing that, there's risk There's, so the people that are on both sides, they are under mental siege. The Israelis are, they go, it's like the case of going to sleep with one eye open. You never know what's going to happen. And then, of course, the Palestinians on the Hamas side are doing what? They are constantly on the move. They've been told vacate. And there's this news out there that Israel calls them on their cell phone and say, move. Just imagine yourself getting a call saying, get out of wherever you live. I mean, you're going to be shocked today. You're going to be confused. You're going to say, well, in what direction do I go? So that's what's going on. And it's just very disheartening.
All right. What would you also say are the potential geopolitical implications of the Israel-Hamas conflict in the broader Middle East region?
Well, I mean, you got, there's the finger being pointed at Iran as the supplier of resources to Hamas. Who knows who else is doing in Syria or Jordan or the people that are in that region that are just thinking that this is unfair and they're going to do whatever. They're not going to step out openly to do it because they don't want to offend their Western allies and their Western friends, or the U.S. especially. So that's just what is going on. I don't know how the geopolitical shift is going to go, but it tells a story that Israel, out of nearly 200 countries in the world, has been able to garner the sort of attention it has garnered, and they are able to do what it is they are doing, and they seems to get away with it. It's just something that goes to everybody's conscience. Love thy neighbor, isn't that the golden rule that everybody talks about? How come these people can do it? Israel says, hey, they're the ones that make us do what we do, and then the other people say, hey, they too make us do what we do. This is just a case of, two people in a marriage, they never see eye to eye, and they never, even when they divorce themselves, they still hate each other, and that they come back and keep harming each other. So it is very unfortunate.
All right, Global Affairs Analyst, Mr. Ejike Okpa, thank you so much for joining us in the news.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.